You spoke of the Age of Aquarius. Like, what is that for somebody that doesn't know anything about the
So
Age
the
of Aquarius?
last 21, it goes in 2100 year cycles. When Christ was here was the age of Pisces. He entered that, and it was follow the leader. So Pisces was the Christian model or the Jewish model or the Muslim model was we're going to give you a book and you'll get these instructions and you'll follow. And if you don't follow, we'll banish you. You won't be part of our community. You won't have any food. You won't have any family. You can't live in our town. Yeah. So it was a really strong adherence to a set of values and rules and codes that were brought to us by religion. That was the Piscean age. Pisces loves sacred, magic, ceremonies. They love having incense burning. They love doing magical mushrooms, as they're called, but that wasn't introduced by the religious order. And then came the Aquarian age, entering, from my point of view, in the 60s. We don't know when it turns, but suddenly in the last, let's say it's just beginning. We're only at the very entrance. And that was, do not follow, do not go to church, do not listen to what other people tell you. You can be yourself, whatever religion, whatever sexuality, whatever thought process. You don't have to get married. You don't have to have kids. You can have kids through a tube. There's a million Aquarian options now that were not in place during the Piscean age. So now we're in the free fall. The old structures that we counted on to give us right and wrong aren't here. So the Aquarian age is freedom. But when you have too much freedom, it starts to feel disorienting. Like, what's right and wrong? And how do I feel safe? And where do I get safety and security, as we had in the olden days when you knew what the religious order told you to do and what to wear and how to dress? The whole thing was completely, it was like a follow the leader and a homogenized experience. Now we're in the chunky part where everything goes. We have the weirdest reality we live in. We're inside of a computer right now. People are like, what is happening? Cyberspace is the Aquarian age. AI is the Aquarian age. ET is the Aquarian age. These are the new entrances of us realizing telepathy is real. Like, there's an alternate reality that is not stuck by the religious order and the symptoms of our grandparents. So it's kind of exciting.
It's exciting. Jesus was part of the Piscean age.
He was the fish. Remember, there was fish everywhere. Pisces is fish.
Do you feel like Jesus was also had the momentum of astrology behind him?
He was found by a star. Hello, why do people forget this? Those wise men were astrologers. They predicted his presence. They knew where to find him. Isn't that magic? So, of course, in the Torah and every religious order, there was astrologers in the back room, but they weren't allowed to come out, and they were never allowed to be women. It was only men that were allowed in the sacred temples of the astrology's mysteries because it was so mathematical. And they determined that women didn't have that capacity. Well, we changed that. I have a school that's all women. I have 8,000 students have come through my school. 98% are women studying astrology.
Wow. Why do you think that is? Is it making up for lost time?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's time's up. Women are incredibly, it's so bizarre. This is the Aquarian age. It's no longer being run by men. So there's this polarity that happens, and then we come back into the middle, and that means everyone's included, and we're past the polarity of genders, and that will be the Aquarian age when we actually just see each other eye to eye, and we're done with the construct of polarity. That's going to change.
How do you think it's going to change so that we can love each other more?
Well, we're seeing it right now. This is there's a polarity so strong in our planet right now between Republicans and Democrats, between those that believe and those that don't, the new age people and the old. There's such a strong, and that is going to create so much tension, civil war. There's so much tension that it's going to finally pop, and we're going to show up with the people who love and are past the duality and just look into each other's eyes and know that if an alien arrived, why would we separate ourselves? We're one species. And there's so many more. And how dare we think we're the only ones? That is the funniest thing I've ever. If we're the only ones, come on. Humans are not the most evolved species. Please tell me that's true.
Well, we're doing our best.
Thank you.
So with the level of consciousness that we have.
You're so sweet. I love that.
I love the way you got into astrology. And even you said, I wrote the book because it had been decades and somebody said, you need to write this book, but you resisted it. Why did you resist it so much?
I think just my ego was like, how much more work do I have to do? And I made a plan, I made an agreement, and I said to myself in my prayer, because I strongly believe in prayer, and I said, if it's fun, and it's not heavy lifting, I'll do it. And then somebody showed up in my world who had 4 planets in Aquarius. She was a genius. She took all my classes. She had written 13 New York Times bestsellers as a ghostwriter. So she and I started dancing together, and she was fun, and she was funny, and she did all the heavy lifting, and it became a party. But in the entrance, when the mind first gets a new idea, and it looks like a big mountain, and you're 70,000 years old, you're like, we're going to walk up that mountain. And then I realized, well, I could ask for help. And then I got help.
Wow. Okay. So the momentum started really young. Your dad was in the Jewish Mafia, which I think is fascinating.
Are you allowed to tell everybody that?
We can
look
say
who's
it.
on the walls.
That's okay. I think he was connected to the Mafia.
He
Frank
was.
Sinatra,
Of course
for sure.
he was in Las Vegas.
How did that understanding or lesson or contract that you signed up for?
I don't talk about it often, but I love that you brought it up.
How did that fuel who you are?
You know, my father was one of my most primary significant contributors to who I am. He was a very old soul. He was not what he appeared. I could see through the veil. I could see that he wasn't who everyone thought he was. And we had this deep heart connection. And I learned loyalty from those men. And I learned friendship. And when he died and I sat to be the person that spoke and all the men were in the front row that were his best friends through the Mafia, they all had tears running down their eyes. They knew that my dad and I had that connection and that I knew who he really was. So the veneer of who people are, what we think they are on the outside and who they are on the inside, he gave me such a gift. He ended up getting caught. He was in a conspiracy. There was a bunch of guys that did a crime. His best friend was the one non-Jew that he kind of brought into it. His name was Wayne. And when the FBI came to Wayne, because he had no track record, he had no history. My father had been in prison more than once. They came to him and they said, if you tell us everything, you don't have to go to jail. He then apparently told them. And he didn't go to jail. My dad went to jail, came back out, and Wayne came to our house, knocked on the door. I was like, what? And he came in. My dad was so happy to see him. My mom spit at him. She was like, don't you let him in the house. And after they were together, I said, Dad, how did that happen? How are you still friends with Wayne? And he said, what you don't know is he came to me when the FBI came, and he said what was going to happen. And he asked me what to do. And I said to him, you do what you think is right. Nothing's going to touch our friendship.
Wow.
I am not here to judge you, and you're not here to judge me. What a teaching. Yeah. I learned non-judgment, that what appears to be on the outside is not what's happening on the inside. And I really got humbled in the presence of a being who to this moment, he's since passed. I always feel him around me. I wear this watch that he gave me when I was a teenager. I keep him so close to me because I learned through his example that what you think is on the outside is not what's happening on the inside. So don't judge. Now that's wisdom.
What a gift and what a character he played in the theater.
Oh yeah, he was such a character. He had such a funny personality. I could do a lot of Milt stories, but we'll leave that out.
So J.P. Morgan, it's interesting because your father was playing a role where it was like, you know, money and the way he played it. But then most of us, we're disconnected from money. I had a lot of money wounds when I grew up. Like
Taurus.
Yeah, like rich people are bad. And I heard this from my parents. God loved them, right? They did the best they could. Money doesn't grow on trees. Rich people are evil. And there's a massive money wound in the world. But this is really interesting with astrology. J.P. Morgan said that millionaires look at the stars, but billionaires study astrology. I find that fascinating. That J.P. Morgan, one of the biggest tycoons ever, is publicly quoted as practicing astrology. What do you make of that?
Well, it's just the truth. It's kind of the secret code. I don't know what's made it so separate, but this book that I just wrote is an entrance to let the mind begin to consider that there's a design. Einstein said, God is not playing with dice. This is not a random order. Who you sleep next to, who you don't sleep next to, who your mother was, what you do for a job, what your financial relationship is with money. These are all put in place by a karmic agreement. Now, whether or not you can remember it, whether or not you like it, whether or not you agree with what you signed up for, it doesn't matter because life always wins. So astrology gives you the gift of accepting, oh, it's just like what we saw with your wife today. Some people's charts scream, you're going to learn the hard way. And then they get really polished and they get really wise. That's what happened to my dad. Hard chart, real wisdom came out of it. Some people get you have an easier chart. There's an energy, your effortless grand trine and fire you have this amazing access to being a full moon in Scorpio, deep. So you came with an easier track. At the same time, whether it's easy or hard, there's always the free will button. Will I choose to wake up inside the dream? Easier for the people that aren't challenged, just to say the hard charts are better because they instigate. They create enough tension. The easier charts take discipline, and that's the sign of an old soul. If someone has discipline, and most people don't, I don't know where the camera is. Where are all of those people? Yeah, most people on this planet will say to me when I ask, because I do a lot of research on people, I don't have discipline. Well, that's just the difference between an old soul who knows that, oh, the formula down here is consistency, commitment, and follow through. They call it Earth for a reason. The planet's blue. It shouldn't have been called Earth. But the real exercise down here is, can you do consistency and follow through? And you specialize in that.
The 4E process was so profound. We just went through it, y'all. So maybe we'll put some clips in the podcast. The air element seems to be what washes away a lot of wisdom. Also the water. And then there's the grounding from the earth. And then there was one more, the fire, right? So can you talk about how that even came through for you? Was it like this amalgamation in your career, or one day you were just like, I got it?
I studied at a very young age with the group called the Emissaries. They're since gone. And the original man that brought it to earth was a channeler. He was a triple Pisces. And he talked about these 4 elements. I was very young when I heard it. It landed because it was part of my mission. I wrote a book called The Missing Element that did really well. You guys have to go read it. You're going to love it. I'm going to send it to you because it's all about the 4E process. And then I started seeing that what described for me my success was that I learned how to do all 4 elements. I came to it almost by mistake. I learned the 4 elements through that original source. I then began to study it and apply it in my own personal life. And as the years went by, I wasn't aging. And I was getting more excited about life. And I was doing a breaking of the model that I was brought up in as a good Jewish girl. Somehow I did not resemble the people that I grew up with. And I know it was because of my relationship with the 4 elements. And get this. So I just wrote a new book about the tarot. In the tarot deck, the very first card is the 0 card, is the Fool. You come onto this planet like a goofball. Like, why would you come into a planet where you have no instructions, you have the weirdest family, you don't know what you're doing there, and you don't even know what your chart is?
Why did I sign up for this?
Exactly, the Fool, poof. And the first stop, number 1 card, is the Magician. In all the decks since the 15th century. And on the table of the Magician are the 4 elements. In all the tarot decks across time, and that was the first entrance of how you can master this plane of existence. 4E, I developed, which is something I teach people, to assist people to realize that the code is written in doing all 4 elements. It's kind of fun. It's like the simplest. I always feel like I am the canary that ate the, how does that go?
Canary in the coal mine? Something like that?
Something makes me happy and I don't know what it is.
Okay.
The canary that ate the cat.
Okay.
It's disgusting. The cat that ate the canary.
All right.
I'm a little funny, you guys. Anyways, I feel like I broke the code by practicing those 4 elements, which gave me this little smile that makes me feel like if you do what the 4 elements, as you saw, give you access and you master all 4, which you've done, a great communicator. This podcast gets everybody on the edge of their seat. An emotional body that knows how to be still, full moon in Scorpio, and go deep. A practical side that is really into the details and means what you mean. And then your and then your fire, the excitement, the enthusiasm, your physical body and your mastery. See, this is the clue of an evolved soul right there, in case you're wondering. And the symptom of that is the world works. And the source of that is you study. You learn these simple principles. And that's basically my life's work, the 4 elements and the stars.
Yeah, the overlay is so fascinating. The way that the astrological lines, you're able to look at the chart and see the degrees. And there's a real science to this that I think is
so true.
Probably like why you named the book, I Don't Believe. We're in this intellectual world where everybody has to have exact proof and they have to see it with their eyes and understand it with their mind. But everything we just went through was all in the body. It was all in the heart. And this is the war between the illusionary war between science and spirituality. What do you make of that?
Water is the most important element. If the emotional body can be still, if I can trust, because the next card after the Magician is the High Priestess, who says, can you guys stop for a minute and remember why you're here? If we don't start our day with a prayer or a meditation, or if we don't remember why we're here because we lost our spiritual connection because it was religion and it was old or it's contrived, and people pretend they're new age, and I ask them straight up, do you meditate? And they go, no. I mean, we all hear about it, but do we actually do it? And this is the real power of all of my work, is the first element is water and the ability to actually have faith that there is a design. It's such a great feeling when you know that this planet is organized by a higher intelligence, and astrology is proof of that. And as Einstein said, God's not playing with dice. So once that emotional body soothes and it's soft and there's comfort there, then the rest of the system goes so smooth. Nobody ever tells you that. That's why we drink clean water. That's why everybody's so obsessed right now with water. It is the element that will determine whether or not you'll be at peace.